All right, and this just in, we have a final out of the Orange Bowl where Oregon has knocked off Texas Tech 23-0 in the College Football Playoff quarterfinal. The Ducks punched their ticket to the Peach Bowl in Atlanta, where they're going to take on the winner of today's Rose Bowl between Indiana and Bama. For Texas Tech, closing the books on their first trip to the CFP, and they're also just the latest team to lose a CFP after having a first-round bye. Those teams are now 0-6 since the field expanded in the 2024 season. All right, let's recap it and have a discussion with our college football analyst, Tom Fornelli. Tom, Oregon wins, and that means that all teams with an opening round bye, 0-6 all time, 0-2 this season. But if you guys don't follow Tom Fornelli on X, you absolutely should, because he is a great follow. And we also love to reference some of your tweets, because you don't necessarily think this is a bye situation in terms of the Orange Bowl. It was more of a matchup situation, right?
Yeah, I think for this game, if you look at stylistically, you can argue Texas Tech's offense looked, rusty. But the fact is, Texas Tech's offense has looked like that all year. They've been very boom or bust. They are big plays, and then they have trouble putting together those little 4 or 5 yard plays to keep drives going, what we typically refer to as success rate statistically. Oregon defensively has been one of the best defenses in the country this year at taking big plays away from teams, and they did that here today against Texas Tech. They did not get the big plays they are accustomed to getting. I don't think that has anything to do with the bye. I just think that Oregon was a bad matchup for them. And just if you look at the picture overall, yeah, teams that have byes are 0-6. But what else is in common with those 6 losses? That 5 of the teams that lost those games were underdogs in the game. Miami is the only underdog that was to win after coming off the bye. Ohio State was the favorite in last night's game. That's the first time that has happened. So when I look at that record, yeah, it's interesting, and it's something that's worth monitoring. But I really don't think it's that big of a deal. I don't think the bye has been the problem. I think last year it was the format where 2 of the teams that got the byes were Boise State and Arizona State. They lost to Penn State and Texas, 2 teams they were big underdogs to. And then this year you've just seen last night there was the upset, but Oregon was favored to beat Texas Tech in that game this afternoon. So I don't think the byes have anything to do with it.
Okay, I'm going to put a pause on the bye conversation, but we're going to circle back to it at the very end. But want to talk about Oregon and their offense, because this game went into half 6-0 with Oregon up and not even getting in the end zone, right? So do you have any concerns for this Oregon's offense here? Despite, started moving a little bit with Dante Moore towards the end, but do you have any concerns moving forward in the CFP based off of what you saw for the entire game from that offense?
I do, because last week, Oregon clearly had a very easy time moving the ball against James Madison. They were simply overpowering the Duke's defense. They were too talented for them to be able to keep up with them in coverage. And then today we saw a very different story against a Texas Tech team that has one of the best defensive lines in the country, if not the best defensive line. But if you look at the numbers and statistics of what Oregon was able to do here, they averaged only 1.4 yards per carry on the ground. They were not able to run the ball. Dante Moore, you look at the 26 for 33 part, and you're like, okay, that's pretty good. But the 7.1 yards per attempt is very low for him on the year. It was a lot of dinking and dunking. He had the 1 interception, no touchdown throws. I just feel like Oregon offensively did not look crisp in this game at all. And if the problem was going up against a very good Texas Tech defensive line, well, guess what? In the next round, you're going to be facing either an Indiana defense with a terrific front 7 or an Alabama defense with a good front 7. And then if you somehow get past them, you're probably looking at Georgia or Miami, 2 other teams who have terrific front 7. So I think that is a problem that could loom large for the Ducks. If they play like they did today on offense in the next round, they're probably not going to win. So I think that's the one thing they need to really address. Their defense bailed them out big time today.
Yeah, it only gets harder as this thing moves on, as you alluded to. I want to get to Texas Tech, because hats off to them, a heck of a run. What do you think this team is going to look like, and how difficult is it going to be to get back to this place next season for the Red Raiders?
Yeah, clearly, you lose this game like the way you did, getting shut out for the first time. It's a bitter way to end the year. But if you're a Texas Tech fan, you should still be optimistic about where this program is headed, because you're still at the beginning of the journey. Yes, they pumped a lot of money into this defense this year, and it paid off. They won the Big 12, and they got to the playoff. But they don't have the complete roster that it takes to win in a format like this, in which you have to win 3 games. But if they want to look at a good example of what's possible, Look at what happened last night with Miami. When Mario Cristobal first got to Miami, he was in a very similar situation to where Texas Tech is right now. You start building along the lines of scrimmage, and then you work your way out until you get to a complete team. Texas Tech has the lines of scrimmage figured out. They've got great players on it now. They've got a bunch of 5 stars committed in their recruiting class that'll be there in the years to come. Now begins the process of building out to getting the running backs, getting the receivers, getting the quarterback, which was a glaring problem in this matchup going forward. So Texas Tech will be a powerhouse in the Big 12 next year. I won't be shocked at all if they win the league again and they're right back in the college football playoff. It's really hard to do what Texas Tech did just to get to this point. So thinking that they were going to be able to make a deep run in the very first year of this process, you were asking a whole heck of a lot, and they almost did it.
Yeah, and let's circle back to the whole bye conversation. As mentioned, teams with the bye 0-2 so far this season in the CFP. We know the Rose Bowl is on deck with Bama and IU. Do you have any concern for IU, a team that, yes, they're undefeated, they look very dominant, they're favored in this matchup against Alabama, but they haven't played since the Big Ten championship on December 6th?
I have concern more for the weather than I do for the time off, because the rain in Pasadena, this game, a lot of these games that we're seeing now, even the outdoor ones, they're played on, like turf. Pasadena is not turf. It is actual grass and mud. And the wetter that gets, the crazier things are going to get, the worse your footing's going to get. So I'm not so much worried about the bye as much as I'm worried about slipping and sliding all over the field. That said, if Indiana comes out and looks horrible offensively, maybe there really is something to the bye. But I've been saying to people, I'll really start buying into this theory if Ole Miss comes out tonight and blows the doors off of Georgia. Because if Alabama beats Indiana, I know it's an upset, but it's still Alabama beating Indiana. It's not really that shocking of a result if it happens. If Ole Miss does it to Georgia, then I'll start paying attention to it.
Okay, so a couple more outcomes, and then we'll see Tom start, putting out something else on X. If we get back to Oregon, right, these questions are so tough. Who would you rather face, Indiana or Alabama? Who would you rather face if you're Oregon? Either way, as we mentioned, it's going to be a tough matchup.
I think I'd rather face Alabama, which, again, that is a wild thing to be sitting there and saying when you're asking, hey, which football team would you rather play, Indiana or Alabama? Yeah, Alabama. They just seem easier. They're not as good as the Indiana Hoosiers. And I think it's because offensively, Alabama's very one-handed. They cannot run the ball. They have not been able to run the ball effectively all season. So you don't really have to worry about that. And you look at Oregon and what they do defensively and the way that they limit big plays. If they can leave an extra guy out of the box and drop him back in coverage and force Ty Simpson to pick them apart, I think they feel very comfortable. Against Indiana, they won't have that ability to do so because they have the best quarterback in the country, but they also have a very good run game to go with it. So it makes your life a whole heck of a lot more difficult defensively. And on the other side, Indiana has a terrific front seven. They take away the run game. And we saw today, Oregon struggled to run the ball. Therefore, Oregon struggled to move the ball, period. So I think matchup-wise, I would much rather face Alabama, even though I already lost to Indiana earlier this season, because, again, we've seen a lot. Sometimes rematches, it's hard to beat a team twice in the same season because the losing team often learns a lot more than the winning team does.
You know what? If this was like 4 or 5 years ago and I was looking into the future at this segment saying, who would you rather play, Alabama or Indiana? I'm like, what are you guys talking about? Obviously, I'd rather face Indiana, but hey, that's what the day and age we're living in college football. Tom, we certainly appreciate it. Giving us an Orange Bowl recap. Also, what's ahead for Oregon. They get the dub over